I know what you're thinking. You're tuning into Cannabis Legalization news, and where's everybody else? Well, I'll tell you. Miggy decided to go camping and then told us 5 minutes ago. And Lauren, she's been hurt. So please give her a lot of thumbs up and leave Lauren some well wishes in the comments below. And also, don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell because this is Cannabis Legalization news. I was from the front lines of Cannabis Legalization news on Friday and also yesterday. We had our first consumption lounge that opened in the Peoria, Illinois area. It was called High Harbor. It was really, really fun. Went there, smoked some joints, hung out with the craft growers. There's some great geneticists that are peddling seeds, and I really gave them some kudos and said, good on you for that's still, in my opinion, not legal. But if something that's not legal isn't being enforced, welcome to the cannabis industry. So interestingly enough, at the event, there was armed security, but it did not belong to the people holding the event because you always want to have a third-party security contractor have the guns. There's some real problems when you have both the guns and the cannabis together. So let's go to our top story of the day. I need to pull it up. Biden's vaccine mandate is expected to apply to the marijuana industry, not to everybody, just to the people that have more than 100 employees. And a lot of people don't like this Biden mandate because I'm fairly certain that a third of America has oppositional defiant disorder. No matter what you tell them to do, no matter how much facts you show them, no matter if you prove it mathematically with charts, graphs, and Jesus Christ himself comes down from heaven and says, yes, that's the answer, they still will say, fuck it, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go take horse dewormer. Or we don't know all these studies, but that works both ways. It also works against the cannabis industry. One of the things we like to do here is try to be as reasonable and honest and fact-based as possible. That is difficult because we are living in a world that does not comprise facts. Most people, they just are kind of here and they're doing whatever they think is going to make them look cool or that is fun. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have nice stuff, and cannabis is still mostly illegal. But President Joe Biden on Thursday announced that the proposed rules will be implemented by the Department of Labor's Occupational Safety Health Administration, better known as OSHA, via an upcoming emergency order. So I'm going to skip that one. MJ Biz estimates that the industry employs equivalents of 340,000 to 415,000 full-time workers, but the mandate only applies to businesses with more than 100 employees. Whew, my law firm and consulting company, Collateral Base, will not have to be complying with the mandate. I have not required anybody to get vaccinated, but I did because I didn't want to have to worry about getting the coronavirus or passing it on to somebody or wearing a mask. Turns out that you still have to wear a mask quite often, especially on trains. It's frustrating. You know how difficult it is to do a show by yourself when you can't even take a drink? I'll wait until the 420 bumper somewhere because it is after 6 minutes after. For example, the Family Medical Leave Act applies to employees with at least 50 employees with a 75-mile radius. So it's possible that OSHA, too, could come out with a site or geographic requirement. Court rulings and then 4 types of examples. That's all right. I'm going to go to the next one. But, well, no, I should rant and be like, you are justified in your anger at the vaccine mandate. That's not fair for me to do. That's like me literally using your pre-existing prejudice and whipping it up into flames to exploit you. I'm not going to do that. I get pissed off when I see people doing it. I like to point out that they're gaslighting or Alex Jonesing somebody or my pillowing somebody. But, it happens a lot. And if you don't like being told what to do, great, smash some likes, click subscribe. But if you also like looking at facts and data and then saying, oh, we should have done this. Can you imagine if I tried to run a business based off just gut feelings and my own personal prejudices? It would suck. No, you use data and then you go, oh, people prefer this. This has a better conversion method. And that's what you should be doing. But people don't like to be told what to do in America. It's really frustrating. But that's kind of where we come from. And they're still doing it. So get your vaccines. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. You can still get them. It would really help. It's not that polio was cured by people saying, I'm going to take horse dewormer. Polio was cured by a vaccine. Same with smallpox. Same with the coronavirus if people would just freaking get the shot. But they can't. They can't because freedom in America. And did you know that I am justified in completely ignoring all the science and doing whatever the heck I want, whenever I want, fuck everybody else. Welcome to America. We have a specific state for that. It's called Texas. You can move there. It's really fun. You know, it's great having like no infrastructure rules or anything, and woohoo. But OSHA, that's a thing, and they are requiring people, employers with over 100 employees to mandate their vaccines. California bill on smokable hemp, CBD foods, and cannabis use in hospitals has headed to the governor's desk, according to Marijuana Moment. The California advocates scored a pair of victories in the state legislature this week. Lawmakers sent a bill to the governor's desk and set up regulatory framework for hemp-derived CBD sales that also removes the ban on smokable hemp products, which makes sense. I really also, if the anti-vaxxers are one thing that I don't like, the thing that I really, really don't like, hemp bans, hemp flower bans. That just makes me go like, why? Like, what? Huh? And then so whenever a state bans hemp flower, and they often do, you always have to sue for that. And that's been successful before, and hopefully it'll be successful again. Or they'll just actually do these types of legislative updates. So State Senator Ben Hueso has been fighting for his measure to allow medical cannabis in medical facilities for terminally ill patients. And he recently sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Health and Security seeking clarification on the policy change that could jeopardize federal funding for those facilities. They can't give medical marijuana to patients in hospitals because that would jeopardize federal dollars, because the federal government has still not legalized marijuana for obvious reasons, because, you know, people suck. However, can we then give CBD hemp to these medical patients to not jeopardize the funding that all these hospitals require? Also, for another American failing, we do not have universal health care. Maybe you're watching this in 2029. If you have universal health care, congratulations. You can actually go to the doctor as opposed to ignoring it and just like rubbing some dirt on it. Okay, so Miggy has joined us from his camping trip. Miggy reporting from camping. How is camping going?
Wet. Well, I'm on the way back, but it was very after a couple. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're coming in just fine.
Yeah,
you know, I don't have to read the news by myself anymore, or like rant. And I'm trying to say like not political, but just hating on anti-vaxxers.
Well, Well, come on. Where's the last case of polio that you heard of?
Oh no, I did this rant. But welcome to the news. Cannabis legalization news. Chief correspondent Miggy reporting from camping. So were there any small fires related to cannabis at the camp out?
Lots of small fires. And then I went live yesterday from a cannabis event that I'm going to be putting a blogging about here soon. But again, you know, my biggest thing about the cannabis event, and the reason why I broadcast it, because, you know, we went to Hemp Fest, and I tell you, cannabis events are much to do about nothing. Alcohol events have how many incidences or problems that happen, but the worst thing that happened to me at any cannabis event is just trying to stay awake through the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's exactly, and I can confirm that, because I was at a cannabis event this weekend. We had our first one in Peoria. Now, alcohol is served at cannabis events because of all the prejudice towards it and the concept of like mixing these two substances, and therefore we smoked some joints and hung out, drank some water, and then left and went to the bars to have dinner. And I actually drank less. I noticed that, and I only had like a couple of beers. And so it would be fantastic if there were consumption lounges as opposed to one. And then this is the only one that I know for like 90 miles. I have no idea where the next consumption lounge is. I think it's there's a client of mine near Rockford, which is about 2.5 hours north of a drive. Or then there's one near St. Louis. It's about 2.5 hours south.
There should be more. That's the thing. Like, all use is medicinal use, right?
Where's your consumption lounge, bro? You're in Seattle.
Yeah, mine's in my house.
That's not a consumption lounge. You can't go out and socialize and smoke a joint and talk about all these things and all these problems we're trying to fix. Well,
I told you, I think it's about the infrastructure, how we went about the regulation infrastructure. Like, we first had pure capitalism, pure a fair market, or per se, like everybody had a chance. If you can plant a seed and you can grow it, there was a chance for you to do it. But then here's the thing about regulations: when you give certain bodies powers, like police, like the cops, like Washington State Patrol, or the sheriff's departments,
or the government, or Joe Biden mandating the vaccines. I mean, I understand that people hate being told what to do. I hate being told what to do. It's one of the reasons why I own my own company.
But the vaccine argument is different than the regulation for cannabis, though, because the vaccine argument is, well, actually, they could be both, because the legalization of cannabis is for the betterment of society in a whole.
But that's the same promise they made when they banned it. They've said we have to be able to protect these degenerate races like Victor Licata from going crazy and murdering all these people because he smoked a joint. And that's the other weird thing that you missed before we came in. So you know how you really can't give medical cannabis to cancer patients, or like the patients that are going to a place like a hospital that takes a lot of federal dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It's completely illegal. Like, there is no medical marijuana. So they're trying to fix this law in California so you could allow CBD cannabis only. So like if it's stamped industrial hemp, but it's high quality medicine, like a very, very good CBD cultivar, which our growers want to run in the craft grow. And so like Jason wants to go with like real high quality CBD. And I'm like, let's do it. But at the same time, I don't know how it's going to sell.
Well, that's it right there. Is the CBD market's a hard one when it comes to like Charlotte's Web, and when you're talking about CBD in a recreational market is hard, because most people don't understand that CBD, the entourage effect, is very important. So you are getting the best medicine with a recreational CBD grown plant, opposed to just a hemp base produced only for CBD, and that's what's extracted from it, right? Like the recreational department, the market per se, when people go to that store, they're trying to get the highest THC. That's most of the ignorant consumers walk in the store going, hey man.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we could do is like, let's go over all these terrible memes about the THC potency, but that kind of stuff. Let's hit the next news story. Miggy gets to do we'll be able to hit a news story, I think, before we get to another one. It's a story out of Michigan. Garbage trucks crashes into a building in Sterling Heights and reveals a marijuana growing operation. So in Sterling Heights, Michigan, go ahead, Miggy.
Oh, I was just saying, I saw that one on Instagram, and I showed you guys that footage of the actual, like, they showed the footage of the actual truck and what happened, and what a bizarre sequence of events to reveal. Yeah, I mean, just like they were all working together just to expose, hey, by the way, there's an illegal grow right behind here.
Right.
I mean,
yep.
And why?
Like, that's one of the downsides of open regulation, like a Michigan, where I wonder why that garbage truck crashed into the building, and maybe he knew it was there, but then because there are so many grows in Michigan, Indiana is very thankful for that, but you piss the wrong guy off, suddenly a garbage truck goes through your grow, and you're like, crap, I am not going to be able to explain this one.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, do you think there are that many illegal grows out there? Like, because the focus of, like, again, regulation of a legal market, and then everybody talks about getting rid of the traditional market, and I mean, are there that many big outdoor illegal grows or indoor illegal grows out there? And these, like, because Michigan's got a pretty good model, right, to try and get rid of the traditional market.
Well, it's almost too good. People like, you have to be regulated, but a lot of people aren't. It's just like the vaccines. It's just like the vaccine. People do not like being told what to do in America. So it's like, don't do this. Fuck you.
Well, and then you're right, though. I mean, like, it's object authority.
Yeah.
Objection.
People hate authority. Yeah. Stand right up to authority and they say, no way. But I don't get it. I don't get why. Well,
but at the same time, remember, yesterday was 9/11, and then like 20 years, we're all jerking each other off going, oh, America, we're greatest. We're the best in the world.
We're so good, we can win where everybody else has failed. A protracted land war in Afghanistan.
We got the biggest prison system next to China. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, if you're going to look at it from a fair, what is right, I mean, prohibition, any prohibition is going to be the biggest domino for social equality. You know, I'm looking at you, Kentucky and Tennessee. I think
that would be helpful. Kentucky and Tennessee, actually the entire South, get on board. Come on, man.
Well, riddle me this, Batman. You know, it's like we live in it's funny when we talk about politics, it's like a minority dominant politics, right? And people say minority rule, but you know, we all think black, brown people at that time when you say that, but it actually is just a lesser of a party, right? So like, we actually have the hillbillies that are running the show because they know how to do that. What's the McConnell, the legislative process, the
parliamentary procedure.
Parliamentary.
Right.
So, like, you know, Kentucky, Tennessee, it just seems to me these people want to enable prohibition because it lets them violate other people's rights by smell, right? It gives you one extra tool in your belt to fuck with people. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, it is. It is. Because like we have this concept of freedom in America. We shouldn't then like put the same concept of, but I'm going to fuck with you, you know, into the rules and the enforcement. It's like, hey, freedom. Oh, speaking of 420 somewhere, everybody.
Woo! Right on.
There you go. Hey, did you hear what the Yale researchers found this time?
Oh, what we got?
Yale researchers have discovered the healing effects of psychedelic drugs, according to the Yale News.
Is this from 1960?
No, this was from a paper published in the journal Neuron on August 18th. Researchers at Yale, you know, that safety school of yours, the Yale School of Medicine, presented evidence that administering this drug to mice resulted in approximately a 10% increase in neuron size and density in the frontal cortex of the brain. And what was that substance?
LSD? No, mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Psilocybin's active ingredient actually in mushrooms. So Yale researchers found that a single dose of the naturally occurring psychedelic compound psilocybin can cause structural changes in the brain that counteract the symptoms of depression. So if you're feeling kind of blue, you might just need to take a tolerance break and have a mushroom weekend.
Isn't it kind of funny how now we're catching up to 1,000-year-old medicine?
No, it's hilarious. And it's also tragic. But hey, this stuff works. Fuck them. Take all their shit. Tell them that this other stuff that we made in the lab works. Get a patent on it. I'm going to go to Reno.
Well, you know, what's funny. It's like when people finally to learn that it's a helping tool, they get in those circles where people like refer to themselves as shaman and stuff like that, which, you know,
they start to get weirded out. And like, you're like, no, this guy's just a cult leader. He's probably a freak. And then by the time you realize that, you're in like to the Mormons $450,000 and you might as well go because Greg and the gang's pretty cool. And I'll see them in temple. Do Mormons go to temple? If you are a Mormon watching, you're the only one. But please let us know if Mormons go to temple in the comments.
Mormons aren't allowed to smoke weed, though. But if you are, good on you. I mean, it's just what it is.
I tell you what. But that is really cool that one dose of psilocybin can create an approximately 10% increase in the neuron size and density in the frontal cortex of the brain, which may help offset symptoms of depression because everybody's frontal cortex has been underdeveloped for the past, I don't know, when did TV start bothering us? 1945, somewhere in there. Soon as the bomb went off, since the bomb in 45, we've been bothered. Too much technology.
Well, I think, and then also like our, not just the technology, but the marketing being used. Did you ever hear a long time ago?
Yeah,
New Zealand. Yeah, when New Zealand first got Friends, you know, Friends was already a canceled show by the time it got to them. But at that point, there was a lot of depression and anxiety built up because they viewed Friends as like the ideology for like, you know, what a woman should look like and a man should look like and you know, expectations. And it's like, that's all bullshit.
You know? They also aren't doing enough psilocybin. But anyway, these psilocybins and other classic drugs have long been recognized for therapeutic drugs to treat disorders like depression and PTSD. And the doctor said she was inspired by Dr. Ronald Duman, who studied ketamine's effect on neuron density. However, they chose psilocybin because it is so well studied clinically. There was a large phase 2 clinical trial investigating the effects of psilocybin on major depressive disorders. When reached for comment, the pharmaceutical industry said, "Eek, my pants." Yeah.
But it's just like again, psychedelics, cannabis. These plant medicine is proven to help people, and we're just like now getting real, like, I think even with like Dr. Sue Sisley, when she's doing her studies about PTSD, and essentially all the time we're constantly trying to rewire our brains, whether you're trying to learn a new skill, or a new thing that day, I don't know, but, the plant-based stuff helps. It helps us restructure our thinking and how we're doing. What up, Utah?
I love when somebody is in Utah that's watching, and I'm like, you're the only one. That's just you watching in Utah. I just want you to know that. Tell your friends, 2 people. We've just doubled our audience in Utah.
Do you think that with Utah? I mean, I think eventually with their recreation, their medicinal. I think there's going to be a lot of things happening where they start realizing states become medicinal, and then they realize reefer madness is what it is.
No, because they are going to go to the Supreme Court next year about abortion. We are talking about prejudice. We're talking about somebody's beliefs. We aren't talking about facts. And as a result of that, that won't change. And it is because it won't change, it's going to be the same as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's just way more accepted now. And so hopefully in like 20 or 30 more years, that stigma's still there. But it's just, I mean, like, man, what year was it that white people stopped using the word like just openly and lasciviously, just like because they could just say it and get away with it. All right. But, so that we want to have that event, but for weed, that would be great. Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, if this wasn't a cannabis channel, and again, we don't promote anything illegal. We don't promote anything toxic to people. Yeah. We're trying to leave this place a better place than we were, but yet everything we do gets flagged. Everything we do is automatically wrong, even if we're not consuming or whatever. This is just, but yeah, I mean,
YouTube takes, and so if you guys are a young YouTuber that's out there with a smaller channel, and we don't have that many subscribers, get on you, keep doing it, but you're going to get flagged, and so it's going to be more difficult for you to grow, and you're going to get creative about how you avoid those types of things. But you're trying to, there's so many great YouTube channels about weed out there.
Oh yeah,
just tons of them, and I find more of them every day. And it's fantastic. Like if I want to find out, like, oh crap, is this overwatering symptoms? I go to YouTube, overwatering symptoms. Like somebody F's up on a run and films it and shares that, and then people learn. It's great.
Exactly.
They're trying to stop that, and then every one of these YouTubers, they always, and we don't do this yet, we should. Just like we used to have that little cash register ding. Well, we might want to go back to something like that. But it would be a disclaimer, like the same frickin' thing South Park does. So like before it starts, it's just we have a disclaimer. And so we're going to talk to Dusty and Indy and be like, Dusty, we need a disclaimer that we can do before the bumper starts. Or maybe that's just our overlay. So like our overlay will be that disclaimer. We'll get an overlay. Lauren can like she's in traction, but I think she can help us with an overlay.
I got an idea. How about it'd be like a bub, when you hear a bong ripping, like the bubbling. And then you hear and then you hear the coughing, and you say, "We're only for 18 and over, and promoting legal advice and legal policies."
I can hear people abandoning just right now. I can just hear people turning that off. The last thing anybody wants to hear when they turn on a YouTube channel is like, sorry, I wasn't ready for that one. And then the guy keeps going. But I love doing YouTubes where I do that, because then I'm like, I know I'm answering somebody's question. I might as well humanize it a little bit. It's clearly not the evening news. Hey, did you hear that news that's coming out of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel from this week?
What's that?
If you are missing your UPS delivery of marijuana, Geneva police are holding it for you. They want you to know that. If you did not receive your package of a large quantity of marijuana, you are in luck. the town of Geneva Police Department is holding it for you. The police department on Wednesday posted a photo of 3 bags packed with marijuana that were found inside an undelivered UPS package in an effort, very much tongue-in-cheek, to find its rightful owner. Now, this is a wonderful time in the show to tell us and everybody else what you already know, especially if you watched that video that I did about, and I should be like, don't mail weed. That will be a video. If I did don't mail weed as a video, it would immediately be flagged. I would have to say, can you put cannabis in the United States Post Office or Postal Service? Or like, is it legal to mail cannabis? Maybe that title won't get flagged. And so that's something I should do, because that'll get us some subs.
That definitely get a lot of pings, man. I mean, everybody's curious. It's like, is cannabis legal? Question federally. Like, I don't know where people get that impression sometimes that less people are getting arrested or getting messed with. Like, it's still an issue,
right? But that's another one. Is cannabis legal? I bet that would get some views, because people have got to be like, wait, what? You say, cannabis isn't legal anymore. It's just like that one South Park where Kanye, it was like back when him and Kim Kardashian started dating, and it was the one where he was the gay fish. Yeah. And he didn't understand that Kim Kardashian was a hobbit. And so he kept calling her and saying, like, how are you not a hobbit?
That's good shit, man.
Yeah. But you do not put weed in UPS. You put weed in the United States Postal Service, because then you have a Fourth Amendment protection.
Exactly.
That's right. And so the town of Geneva police are hoping to find the rightful owner, wink, wink, of this parcel that was returned to UPS this week. The Post reads, before offering a phone number and the name of the officer you should call to believe the package was destined for you. You're telling me that this package doesn't have an address on it?
Right. Hey, I got to take off early. I'm sorry to cut it out, but I got a family sitting in the car on the side. I was like, I got to pull over and do at least 20 minutes with Tom and the people. I just, everything was spontaneous, and it's been the longest day ever. But yet, I'm going to add some more content to the blog and make more content later for everybody. I think the members only channel, I tried to add 2 videos yesterday. So if you're a member, check out the 2. I did it live at an event yesterday. So I'm trying to do those members only, or the events only in the members only, because, safety first.
Not only that, like, YouTube still flagged that. So if I would have gone live from the weed place yesterday, I'll guarantee you YouTube would have flagged it. So like if we do a live thing from Hemp Fest and people are shown on camera smoking.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, Miggy. We're going to play some Name That Strain, and you drive safe.
All right, brother. Later, man.
Later. Oh, cool. It's that one episode where my head's some weed. This might get us flagged. Now, if anything gets us flagged, it may be this. But they, for whatever reason, their algorithm, I don't think, has picked up on the actual cannabis nug itself. I'm not saying that Google and YouTube should have their algorithms get better. This is for 18 plus only, of course. But there is the strain. If you want to go ahead and name it, it's not necessarily a name. I mean, it's out of California. And so if you're in California's market, you may be able to get it easier. And it was a Crockett Farms cultivar that we're looking at. But let's go back to some good news. Marijuana arrests are down by a little bit in Virginia. In fact, they're down 90% in Richmond, Virginia, since the Virginia's legalization bill that was passed earlier this year became effective on July 1st. So marijuana arrests are down by 90%. During the first 7 weeks of the law, only 25 marijuana-related arrests were made in Richmond and the counties of Chesterfield, Hanover, and Henrico. That compares to 257 arrests during the same period in 2020. And it's amazing, a 90% reduction in arrests in a city in Virginia, simply because the laws have been updated to no longer criminalize and prioritize the arrest. And then think of all the processing time that has been saved. Now, that's just the procedural due process. Then we could talk about your substantive due process rights of not having your life and your liberty and your property taken from you unreasonably. So they don't get arrested. They don't have a court date. They aren't convicted of shit. They don't have to go on parole. They don't have to violate their parole. They don't have to go back. They're out of that whole game of gotcha that is the criminal justice system. 90% reduction. That's fantastic. A few people who may not yet be familiar with the nuances of the law are being charged with possession or distribution in the drugs that do not fall within the statutes, albeit somewhat confusing conditions. You see, that's how it is sometimes. After you've legalized cannabis, you still haven't. You still haven't legalized the possession of a lot of cannabis in bulk. Despite like none of the G-men coming to like kick the door of my house down to see how many handles of vodka I have in my closet, they can do that for kicking down your doors and seeing how many plants you have in your basement. That is the type of parity that we're looking for. And of course, you can't be making moonshine in your basement and then selling it. They have rules and regulations. But if you want to become a distiller, there's a path for you to do it. So the grower, for example, that one guy was growing over the limits. So he has 2 felonies that he still faces. This is one of the not 90%, but he has 5 pounds of marijuana and growing between 50 and 100 marijuana plants. And the largest number of arrests, 10, were for marijuana users in the ages of 18 and 20 who were charged with simple possession. The new law allows adults 21 and over to have an ounce of recreational use, but it cannot be consumed or shared in public. So maybe they just had their pockets a little too fat. Roll with a half-o, because seriously, in today's age, if you need it more than that, you're going on a trip that's much longer than a night out. I don't know, though. Some people can get rid of it. It's not like they say, hey, well, actually, they do. They do. You're not allowed to drink and drive. So the Chesterfield police chief is named Jeffrey Katz, and he have a quote from him saying, in terms of our enforcement, we have not had to shy away from enforcing any laws that are on the books. We believe that arrests or prosecutions are advantageous for public safety. So that's kind of the philosophy that we operate under. I'm not out there actively looking for marijuana arrests, but if we see violations of the law and we feel it appropriate, we will make the charge. This, again, may explain the disproportionate impact that the minorities have seen in the enforcement of the drug laws. That is called prosecutorial discretion. For example, picture a sheriff. Okay, now what color was he in your head? Right. Very often the enforcement is selective. And so who are we going to lean on in this? And are you going to throw the book at that person? You know, there's a lot that's left up to this human caprice. And man, I mean, it just, how do you get that out of the system? I don't think you can unless you have like really weird AI. That won't happen until after the mushrooms and the cannabis are both federally legalized. So more news out of Virginia. Qualified patients can line up at a marijuana dispensary. Whole flower cannabis is now available in Virginia. Starting on Friday, September 10th, those with qualifying medical conditions can now purchase whole flower cannabis in Virginia. 2 cannabis operators are in the state, are leading the charge, G-Leaf Medical of Richmond and Columbia Care based in Portsmouth. And they have been collaborating and preparing for this earlier in the year. Earlier this year, the state lawmakers passed legalization to allow smoked marijuana that sales, and that law took effect on September 1st. Prior to this, Dispensary has been selling products manufactured from the oil of the plant. The Virginia Board of Pharmacy reviewed the first whole flower cannabis batch at Columbia Care and G-Leaf Medicals, and the companies received full approval within the last 48 hours. That's a wonderful thing when these 2 cannabis companies are able to ship their harvest and actually ship their harvest, as opposed to harvesting and then having to process it into something that is more medical than the actual plant itself. You know, it's something else. It really is. But Raymond Hernandez is the Columbia Care Virginia pharmacist in charge of the market director. According to Hernandez, this form of cannabis was in high demand and patients have been requesting it for years. Of course they were. A lot of the products they do by extracting the oil of the plant, yes, they're highly effective, but you can lose those minor cannabinoids and terpenes, and that can be lost in extraction. It's one of the reasons why the ice water hash is such a nice method of extracting, because you can get a lot more of the whole plant. The legal limit is 4 ounces of botanical cannabis per month per patient, and that makes it much more easy for you to understand what the adequate supply numbers are. Now, if you are a state that has regulations for medical marijuana, an adequate supply count very often is how much cannabis can a person have. So under the law, there are patients, and then there is the allowable amount for each patient. So it becomes a simple equation, and then you can say that's our benchmark for adequate supply and prioritizing the patients. So if for every patient there's 4 ounces per month, that's a lot of cannabis for the average person. The average person may only go through an eighth every week or an eighth every month. Maybe an eighth lasts them 4 months. There's all sorts of people and their limits that they have. So in international news, let's hit a bumper. I've been on the air too long. Italy is set to decriminalize cannabis cultivation for personal use. Italy is going to decriminalize the growing of cannabis plants at home for personal use. The measure was adopted by the country's lower house's Justice Committee, and it approves cultivation of up to 4 cannabis plants. Backers of the law say it's necessary to allow people to grow cannabis for therapeutic and medical uses. Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera reported that the move was opposed by center-right politicians, showing that resistance to cannabis legalization is an international conservative issue. If you are center-right, you are more likely than not to be anti-legalization of cannabis. I don't care if you're in Italy or Oklahoma. In 2019, Italy's Supreme Court ruled that growing small quantities of cannabis at home for private usage was legal. Good on you, Italy's Supreme Court. I like what you're doing there. The farming and selling of marijuana was barred under legalization dating back to the 1990s, but contradictory court decisions said that, but contradictory court decisions since then have generated uncertainty about the law. The court declared the crime of growing narcotics and drugs should exclude small amounts grown domestically for the exclusive use of the grower. That is substantially different than what happened in our Supreme Court's interpretation of the Raich case, where they said you cannot impact interstate commerce and therefore have that cannabis because Congress has regulated this, and even a single seed and a single plant grown specifically for a single patient, all in state, impacts interstate commerce. But Judge Thomas also did say that the current incantation of our cannabis laws in America are more episodic than coherent, and maybe next year they won't just be hearing something on the abortion issue, they'll also be hearing something on the cannabis issue. It's rake 2 if we can find that patient. I don't know where that patient is. There's probably a million of them. Now we have to go get the complaint from the Raich case, dust it off, rename the plaintiffs in the jurisdiction, and I guess file it. And there we are. We are done with the legalization news of the day. Oh my gosh, how long have I had this weed thing on my head? Has this been going on the whole time? I've just been reading off a script. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this. The name that strain must still not be here, and I've already clicked out of my notes. So I'm going to say it was something. And let me go get the notes. The name that strain, I think it was a fruity name, definitely a fruity name. It's not the garbage truck one. Forbidden fruit. That is the name of the strain. It's forbidden fruit. According to Weed Maps, this is a descendant of the Tangy and cherry pie. Forbidden fruit is a strain that is both named after sweets and is sweet in its original flavor. The origins of this indica-leaning strain are difficult to pin down, but the original forbidden fruit was reported as bred by a Santa Clara, California-based breeder from chameleon extracts. In this particular story, the breeder is said to have crossed a Tangy from the Crockett family farms with cherry pie pollinated from breeder Jigga, the creator of famous strains such as GSC, formerly Girl Scout cookies before it was sued by the Girl Scouts, and also the gelato strain. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and tuning in to another wonderful episode of Cannabis Legalization News. We hope that you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. Smash some likes, click the subscribe button and the bell so that you guys can get noticed whenever we go live. And a big shout out to all the members. We got a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be launching this fall. on cannabisindustrylawyer.com and knowledge.cannabisindustrylawyer to help my clients in the cannabis industries. And so until Wednesday, we will see you soon.